Dearest gentle listeners, you are listening to the Ladies Bridgerton, the talk of the ton. We are your effervescent hosts, your neighbourhood-friendly Kiwi, Tash from Middle-earth, New Zealand.
And Patty, Regency romance enthusiast, currently writing her high vibe and audacious.
Settle down onto your favourite settee as we delve into the lives of the elite and illustrious ladies, lords, and royalty of the ton. This Bridgerton podcast is two friends talking romance, symbolism, Easter eggs, and deep, 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 diving into the connections of our favorite characters. We cover book, Star Wars, TV series, and notable social media, and therefore will contain spoilers. Guess which week we are recording this podcast on, because for any Star Wars fans out there, you know that it's May the 4th week. May the 4th
It's May
be
the
with
4th.
you.
And it's Patty's divorce anniversary.
Woo!
Yes, my divorce was filed May the ex.
Of course,
From
he
one
likes someone who
controlling-
slaughters children.
No, he who can control you from across the room. That's what he wanted to be able to do.
I'm focusing on
Wanted to be
this.
able to control you without being present.
I'm focusing on the slaughtering many children, but all right.
Okay. So now I wish I'd have written this. I wish I'd have written this intro like Yoda, but man, I just don't have that much creativity today. Hello, dear listeners. We had planned to discuss the Bridgerton sisters today, and we were going to drop the pod on the Bridgerton bros next weekend, but we realized it would be Mother's Day weekend. So we decided to side tangent, of course, and we're analyzing the mamas today. We celebrate their wit, wisdom, tenacity, and their hopes and dreams for their children's futures.
And maybe that some of them could use a little bit of Xanax.
The children or the mamas?
Everyone.
Portia's children could have used some Xanax somewhere.
I mean, to be fair, it's not even, I think we probably have it under a different name here. Like Xanax is not a thing, but
we're going to have a scene. Penelope's with the queen. Portia's there. Portia's excited. Portia leaves and the queen just holds over her snuff box to Pen. Like, and Pen is like,
is this McGonagall's version of have a cookie Potter? It's have some stuff, Penelope.
Have some snuff, Penelope. You need it.
Patty, you have some news for us today in the world of Bridgerton.
There have been some ramblings in the ton. Let me look for my screenshot. Okay. Yes. So, Tangent Squad. Remember last summer, we'll say, when we were so up in arms because of the way season 3 dropped, they were not going to be eligible for the Emmys that were coming up. You had to air all of your episodes by May 30th. Well, we have learned that Netflix and Shondaland has submitted Bridgerton season 3 for the 2025 Emmys, and here are the submissions. Are you ready, Tosh? Because you don't even know about this, right?
Ooh, okay.
So, drama actor. So, best actor in a drama, Luke Newton. Best actress in a drama, Nicola Coughlan. Best supporting actor in a drama, Daniel Francis, which is Lord Anderson.
Yes, yeah.
Martins, I'm going to say your last name wrong, I'm sure of it. Inhungby, which is Will Mondrick.
Mm-hmm.
And I stan that submission so much.
He did brilliant.
And Luke Thompson.
Thompson,
So, yes.
What was
That was best supporting actor, which Benedict in season 3, he had so much screen time. And Will had so much screen time. Lord Anderson, I'd really have to go back and look at his screen time to see if it counts, because they do have criteria.
Okay, yeah.
And it must, because they were able to submit him. But Luke Thompson definitely had the screen time for it.
Well, I'm curious
explains why Jonathan Bailey didn't get submitted for this category, because he didn't have the screen time, but they did submit him as best guest actor in a drama. Jonathan Bailey got that. And then best supporting actress in a drama is Adjoa Andoh.
Yes.
Claudia Jessie, and Golda Rochevelle.
I honestly think that it needs to go too, because I think this season we got a
I think
lot
Adjua.
of Lady Danbury. We got a lot of Lady Danbury, and we saw a lot of character development heard this season between the siblings and her relationship with Violet and her relationship with the Queen. She really she put in the hard work.
I mean, Claudia Jessie gave us great Eloise. Like there's, this was a good season for Eloise, but I see that submission more like for season 4. I think season 4 is going to be big for her because it's going to be her tee up season, which comes into our second news, which is rumor. I think we're going to have a lot more of her because it's going to be her tee up season for her season, I think. And her and Benedict have such a close relationship. I think we're going to have a lot of screen time from her. So, and that brings us into the second piece of news, which I'm going to say this is rumor mill. I've not been able to verify it. But I trust the source I saw the rumor from, and they also said it's rumor too to protect themselves. So, and that's Ainsley Broom. But supposedly, even though Netflix has not announced season 5 is approved yet, a writer who has written on Bridgerton supposedly, allegedly, in America we'll say, allegedly, put on their LinkedIn account that they were writing 5. Tasha.
I am sorry. I'm multitasking.
I at least want a reaction. We seem to have writing occurring for season 5 already.
I'm so excited because I mean
And
it
Netflix
has to
hasn't
be
even announced
Eloise's.
that it's. I'm thinking the same thing. It has to be Eloise. Tasha's been holding all the plates, spinning them in the air this week.
In true Greek fashion, they are smashing all over the place.
So we're gonna have a good thing. This truncate silence. Truncate silence.
I know.
Please.
Okay. So we were up to. Sorry. I'm currently working from home and also podcasting at the same time. It's kind of a funny job at the moment where it's just because I'm not technically in work hours right now, but because I have the work phone, it's just emails and texts and calls that come through. If they need immediate attention, I do have to pause. So it's like being a mother to a whole other beast, being available 24/7. So we were discussing Adjoa.
Mom.
Yeah, we were discussing more mamas.
We were discussing Adjua deserves that best supporting actor.
She really, I absolutely loved her character arc this, and she has absolutely cemented herself as one of my favorite actresses and characters of all time. She, I think, is going to have like a really special place in heart for the role that she plays. She has a brilliant balance of strong-willed but also caring for those that meet the criteria, Like she's the kind of woman who would burn down the world for those that she loves. And I love that energy.
Right.
It's Patty's turn.
Sorry. Because you were texting and doing the work. Oh, so you're saying Adjua would burn down the world for people that she loves.
Yes.
Except her own biological children.
I said for people she loves.
Well, it's not those children's fault. Lady Danbury, love your kids.
I know. And I mean, that is kind of the biggest flaw.
And I think in Queen Charlotte, she showed love for her son because she wanted to keep the title and everything for her son's future.
Yes.
But we still don't know. I think as an audience, we still don't know that rift of why the children are far flung.
Well, I mean, in the books, she didn't like her own children. I think she was probably reminded a little bit too much of her husband with them. So I think as much as it's not fair to the children at all, I very much think that her relationship with her children, or lack thereof, is very much a trauma response.
Oh, I'm sure of it. And we've discussed that before. And I think as they age, like her son being young and cute has a different vibe than her son being grown and looking like her husband.
Yeah. My brain is completely zapped after the email interrupting me. Have we discussed Eloise? Oh, season 5 has begun writing.
There's a rumor Ainsley Broom posted that she saw somebody posted about this rumor that a writer who writes on Bridgerton has written previously on Bridgerton put on their LinkedIn that they are currently writing for season 5, even though Netflix has not said season 5 is a go yet. So that gives us the yippee-ki-yay that season 5 will be a go with Netflix, that Netflix is at least like for sure considering it. And I mean,
Yeah.
Bridgerton is a juggernaut, so why wouldn't they?
Yeah.
And that, I think with everything we know, I think it's
I can't fathom it being anyone else. Like, obviously, we still need time for R.I.P. John.
Yeah, but
Like,
I think RIP is going to happen end of Benedict season or beginning of season
well,
5
that's what I'm
Eloise's
saying. Like,
season.
we need time for her grieving.
She has to have at least 1 year.
Yeah. So if they do it at
Or
the
does
end,
she? If Michaela's family, she can still mourn to the outside world, but still have a romance. And knowing Bridgerton, they would play into that morally gray area.
I really hope that they are going to actually allow her the proper mourning time that she deserves for John, because their love was beautiful. It
Yes,
was a quiet kind of love.
I think John deserves that. If you are going to give us John in the flesh, which we did not get in the books, then you have to do him justice personally. You made me fall in love with the character that I didn't have to fall in love with in the books because he was dead. And I knew from the beginning he was dead, right?
Yeah.
They tell us from the beginning that he's dead. So even though she's like reminiscing and thinking back, you don't develop that personal connection with character like we did in the show. Like we fell in love with John too, as Francesca fell for him. And that's why so many people are so mad about how she reacted to the kiss at the wedding and all of that stuff, because it's like they're just going to gloss over it when it was a very real thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
let's make haste and talk about the moms.
You know what? I actually missed a make haste in last week. I'm like, I get through to the end and I'm like, because I always, as I'm editing, like as I get up to the we must make haste, I split the clip as I'm doing it so that I don't have to then, because sometimes it's at the 2 minute mark, sometimes it's at the 10 minute mark, however much Bridgerton news we've got to get through. And I'm like, I listened to like 15 minutes through and I'm like, did we forget to make haste? We just literally plowed straight into the episode. So double time.
Because we were talking about the bros.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
We didn't need to make haste.
So next week's episode, after this recording, is not going to have a make haste. So double, now, wee, must, make haste into today's episode. You get 2 of them in one. Staying over at my parents' house at the moment because we are renovating our house. So deep apologies again for the fact that this room, I can hear it as I'm editing and I'm like, oh, I don't like this one little bit. I can hear the sound quality difference because half of this room is empty. There's nothing on the walls. And so this room is echoing quite a lot when I do my editing podcast. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to see if I can do anything else in sound quality to minimize that whilst we're packing up. But yes, deep apologies that this audio quality isn't as clear as it usually is. As I've said in the previous episodes, we are packing, painting, doing our house. And so without
well, if you have any spare blankets or whatever, you can bring blankets in and just lay them around and they'll look sound.
Yeah, well, I've got some right behind me, but yeah, without all the pictures and whatnot on the wall, rooms echo quite dramatically. Like even in our bedroom, I can't believe how even just like taking the TV off our wall in our bedroom, how much echo it created. And I'm like, it's such a simple thing in a room and it makes such a difference.
Well, your sound waves are bouncing differently because that's not there.
All right,
are we actually going to talk about Bridgerton in this episode?
Let's start talking mamas because this has been a wild ride. I'm so sorry. I'm so tired today that my brain is.
I know. It's been a crazy week for me too. And like,
yeah.
We're external processors. We just talked about that.
Yeah. I've taken on another job as well. Patty's been doing side hustles. I've taken on another job, which is kind of, it's not a lot of hours, but it's also a lot of hours because I'm always available. And then on top of, renovating our house, packing up, being a mum to a little one, it's been absolute carnage this last week. But it is also the week of my birthday. When this comes out, I will officially be 34 years old. Da, da, da.
Yeah, so happy birthday, Todd.
I'm getting substantially grayer. And this week the wrinkles will be showing because I am so tired.
Your age, neither do I.
Speaking of mamas and Mother's Day, my first Mother's Day that I ever had was on my 30th birthday. The two of them
Mm.
lined up. So my first ever Mother's Day was I had a 6-week-old baby turned on that day.
Oh, that's very sweet. That's a
It's
good
very
memory.
serendipitous. Things line up.
My first Mother's Day. Well, honestly, I met my son Mother's Day weekend. That's the first weekend he
Oh.
came to our house for the trial, like how they were doing it, because he was living in a group home and I still had my girls and they were staying until the end of the school year. But they were doing respite weekend because they were also
What are
trying
you
out.
doing with your mic there?
Oh, rubbing the bottom of sensory. I'm talking
It's
about
it's
stuff.
it's sending through.
I was rubbing the bottom foot thing and not even near the mic itself. It's the stand.
Oh, it was sending through
Um,
so much noise.
I was getting agitated apparently, and I was rubbing it like, oh, that feels funny. But the girls were doing respite weekends at other homes while they were trying to find a good fit for them because they were a high need.
Yes.
So they didn't stay in any home very long. They actually stayed with us the longest. They stayed with us for an entire year. But so he was coming on the weekends, and the first weekend he came was Mother's Day, which we didn't talk about it at all or anything because foster kids, that's a sensitive subject. And so the next year we had officially adopted him, and it was my first Mother's Day. But my ex-husband's birthday is also coming up. It's actually Mother's Day this May 11th.
May 9th is
And
way better.
May 9th is way better. I'll give you that all day. Um, but he began the very first Mother's Day. He didn't like I when Cameron came to live with us, it was a couple weeks before Father's Day, before we adopted him, like when he first came. And I took him out. We got my ex a card. We took him out to lunch. Like his first Father's Day was legit 2 weeks after Cameron moved in. My son moved in. And the next year after we adopted him, and it's my first Mother's Day, like nothing. Like I sat there just watching. It was 2018. I was actually preparing to leave in a couple of weeks. I was doing family care leave, and I had family leave from my job for adopting him because my mom was back in cancer treatment to last her life. Didn't know it at that time. We were just restarting the treatments, but I was going up in a couple to begin like be the first person to take her a couple. So I was kind of in a really stressful space, but I like sat there the whole Sunday. Both of them slept in.
Oh,
There was
that was like the biggest bumblebee I think I've ever seen trying to get in my window. It was like twice the size of that bumblebee's been eating some honey. Like that was a big boy. Sorry, he
That's
just like
funny.
banged against my window twice, like, hi.
He was like, oops, I'm a clumsy bee. But
Continue
yeah,
on.
like nothing happened. Nothing happened. And then they both woke up at like 2, 3, 4 in the afternoon. Like Cameron woke up first. He was probably between noon and 2. And, he didn't say anything. And I'm watching I'm watching stuff on TV, and Keith didn't get up till late because he had gamed all night. And then we did end up going to dinner, but I kind of brought it up. So my first real Mother's Day where it got celebrated it wasn't even because the next year was his birthday fell on Mother's Day. So it had to be about
Yeah.
his birthday,
Yeah.
not Mother's Day. I would say it was
Course.
probably 2020. We were living in Ohio. My sister does up Mother's Day big, her kids do stuff for her. So she invited me down. We were going to do a sister brunch lunch thing. And so Cameron realized he was working or whatever, and got me and whatnot. So yeah, it was 2 years into me being a mom that I got a mother.
All his faults. He loves his mama.
I mean, he's the whole time that it's been just us. Like I've had some pretty good mother. He does a good job with stay. And it's difficult for him. I mean, he does have to.
Yeah. Let's talk.
Well, and that's part of what I wanted to do today. Like we talked about our first Mother's Day, and I hope somewhere in here
Yeah.
we're gonna do a memory from our mothers, somewhere in there. So we'll do that a little later. But let's talk. We already started talking about Lady Danbury.
Well,
I think
I'd like our listeners, if they are mamas or daughters, daughters of those who have good relationships with their mamas or grandmas or, any mother-like figure in their life, please drop a comment, on our Facebook page or in our Facebook Messenger group, your favorite Mother's Day memory, whatever that looks like.
Yeah, Mother's Day, or drop a GIF or a picture of the Bridgerton mama that is the most like your mama.
Oh, I like that. Oh, okay. If I were to go, who looks the most like
I already
my
know.
mum?
Oh, look.
Well, we're gonna go looks and then who's the most like.
There's nobody like There's nobody that looks
The
like my
mum I had
mother.
looks the most like my mum would be not the really mean mum.
Malhotra.
Like a little bit like Malhotra, but more like not Livingston,
Stowell,
maybe Miss Sowell.
the deaf mom.
Yeah. I'm gonna go most like her, and then personality wise. Okay, you go first if you know your mama's.
Well, I can't. I would have to say Miss Stowell too. A mix between Miss Stowell and Miss Malhotra for who my mother looks like, who looks like my mother when my mother was young.
Yeah,
I'll
yeah,
say
yeah.
when she was younger,
Of the same
because
age.
Bridgerton does not have elderly women like how I remember my mother.
Yes.
um,
I mean,
but my mother all damn day, and I'm saying this with all the love in the world, is Portia Featherington, and here's why. My mother was a little critical. We'll start there. But my mother would do anything for her kids.
Yeah.
My mom realized after her and my dad split that because my dad was a narcissist and she endured that abuse while having all the kids. And, as I went through that at the very same age that she had been, like I was able to recognize that and to recognize her healing afterward and things like that. But I think she realized what she put us through during that, just like I had that long period of guilt. I still struggle with the guilt of staying, like I thought I was staying for Cameron so that Cameron would have a dad, but I was actually hurting Cameron by staying. And when I realized that is when I finally was able to get out. But my mom would do anything for us. Like if any of us were struggling, she really did learn and grow in her like middle age on, because she learned so much of her own lessons that where when I was young, and she'd definitely tell me what I was doing wrong or what I wasn't getting right or what decisions I should have made. As she aged and as we developed an adult relationship, an adult friendship, mother-daughter relationship, she really did meet me where I was. My mom was really good about meeting people where they were. Not that I don't feel like my mother ever became her true authentic self. She worried so much about what other people thought and things like that, but and she was very much deeply committed to her church and everything, that she felt a lot of shame and guilt over her mistakes that I don't think she ever got to be her true authentic self, but she allowed others.
Divorce was so shameful in the church back then.
And that's a big reason she never even looked for another person, never looked for love again, because she left my dad without proof that there was adultery, there was possible adultery, but the church doesn't allow you to leave your husband for abuse. The church doesn't allow you to leave your husband for irreconcilable differences. It's biblically, the only way she could leave was actual adultery. And since it was rumored and it wasn't proven, and it was he said, she said, because she said yes and he said no.
Of course.
My mom never knew so she just never put herself out there again, never remarried, but she would do anything for her kids. She, in the young years of my sister having two young kids, and she married a man, she got with a man who already had three young kids from his first marriage. So that was a family that became a huge family. And my mom knew something about that because they were blended and then had us. So my mom did so much for them. My mom literally was the kind that would give you the shirt off your back. One of my favorite memories. I mean, it was very difficult, but it just tells you how my mom is. Her best friend at the time, her husband was stationed in Germany. He was in the military. It was his final deployment. He was career. It was Christmas. His army check had to go through his bank in Germany and then come to the bank in the US, and it didn't make it. So she didn't have anything for Christmas for their house.
I think I remember this one. Yeah.
So my mom talked to us about it. We went in and we got to open all of our presents early because we were deciding what of our presents we could give away to them. And it was all of us. It was my mom, me, my sister, my brother, and granted, my brother was younger than all of them, so he didn't really have a lot. But I was the same size, and this is my best friend now was her mother, was my mom's best friend.
Yeah.
So my sister and her were the same size. So some of my sister's stuff went to her. A lot of my clothing, I was the size of the mom, my mom's best friend. So she got some of my clothes. And then we took some money and we went out and we bought them gifts. And it's actually one of my favorite Christmas.
To give so much to another family, a really beautiful thing to do. And I mean,
And that's just how my mom was. And I think some of that was her own trauma. Some of it was, really doing all this stuff to, like, she had to do that to feel like she was liked by her best friend.
Yeah.
But it's just who my mom was. My, like, if there was something, my mom started a clothes closet at her church and individually manned it. Like, she sorted all the clothes all year long. She would go on 2 Saturdays a month and sort clothes. We only did the clothes closet once a year right before school started. And then we'd have volunteers that would help on that day. But the entirety of the rest of the year, it was my mom running it herself. She was tenacious for her kids, not when we were young. She made up for it in her adulthood, but she was very much resourceful. And she would never give up. She was very much Portia like that. Like, Portia wanted the best for her daughters so much that even if she had to choose something morally gray, and my mom made really hard to, like, I talked in a recent podcast about having to give up my collections because those are worth more than other stuff. Those are decisions that my mom gave up a lot of her own things, but that was to make sure we had the bills paid and we had food on the table and we had things for school and whatnot. Like, my mom learned her resources and used her resources, and that's very much Portia Feathering.
Yeah, I would say that my mum is the most similar to Violet. Honest, like,
Your mom is so Violet. Here's your coffee.
Like, and especially the way that mum is with with her grandchild as well is very Violet coded. My mum will do absolutely anything for anyone, is fiercely protective, but sometimes a little naive. And with the information given, she is both the best and worst of Violet. I like to mock my mum for this because we've seen Violet intoxicated at least once.
It's teasing when you love them. It's mocking when you don't. So you tease your mom.
I very openly mock. It is mock. I love her deeply, but it is so much meaner than just teasing.
I was trying to be nice. Tasha's mom, just letting you know.
The episode when Violet comes home intoxicated from the party in season 1 and Colin's trying to help her up the stairs. One of my favorite memories from my childhood, because it made me feel like, oh, I have something over my mum now, was we were all out, I say camping, but we had we used to stay at this farmer's old hut, and it used to host like most of our family, actually, about an hour out of town. And we were all there, and I was 14, so old enough to start like understanding that my mum was an adult outside of just being a mum. And she
was a human being. Yeah.
She'd been drinking with my aunties, and Dad's like, all right, time to get some food into you. You ladies have all been drinking. And I come into the dining room to find my mum asleep with her face in her food. And I have never, ever let her live this moment down. Because my mum's not really a drinker at all. Like, she'll have a glass of wine or two at like special events, kind of a thing. But outside of that, like, maybe a glass of wine with dinner, maybe 3 nights a week. But she stopped that when she got her head injury. But it was just my favorite thing to like hold over her for so many years. And she, like, whenever I remind her of it, she's like, oh, you remember that, do you? And I'm like, I remember all the good things.
Well, and I would have to say, like, if we're going to talk about something we mocked our mother for, and I'm not proud of this now, but we did it. Like, my mother was a heavy and it turned out she had broken her rib at one point and didn't realize it. She had been up on a ladder steps type thing doing something and had fallen and hit against, those step stool ladders that have that handle on the top.
Yes, I have one in my other room now.
She fell down against it, and apparently it had cracked her rib or broken her rib. She didn't know, because when they did the x-ray to say her rib was broken this time, they said it's a re-break. And she's like, a re-break? Doesn't that mean I had to have broken it like time. Before? Yeah. And they're like, yeah, it looks like you did break it. They're like, we can kind of tell based on the way the bone looks that it was probably within the last year, and it obviously healed on its own. You didn't know it was broken. So that's what she goes, oh, it must have been when I fell off that step ladder. But so the joke is, like, she coughed so hard, she had gotten bronchitis from smoking. She had a smoker's cough anyway, but she just happened to have bronchitis at this time, and she coughed so hard she broke her rib, like, out of no coughing. So, they put the binding on, and then, like, they're telling her, you can't laugh, you got to try not to cough. Like, they they kept her, I think, for a day or two in the hospital to like give her IV
Yeah,
antibiotics and
yeah.
stuff like that to
Pain
kill
management.
the bronchitis because they didn't want her coughing.
Yeah.
But when she came home for weeks, like everything she did, if she like yelled at us, because my mom was a yeller, she was not a physical discipline person, but she was a
Mhm.
lecturer and a yeller. I very much am also a lecturer and a yeller. But if she raised her voice, she'd be like, now Patty, blah, blah. And I say now Patty because she always started everything now Patty. Now Patty, blah, blah, oh. Or like my whole family, because of, trauma, are all sarcastically funny.
Yeah.
And so, you get me and my sister, and my brother going, like we start, like we're so funny that no sound comes out. Like we're laughing so hard. And so my mom would be like,
Life trunicated your silence.
yeah, like so, or she would cough, like anything that came out of her mouth for about 6 weeks, like now Patty, oh, or she'd laugh and do that. So we started like doing that back to her, and
Hilarious.
it wasn't funny in the moment to her, but she could laugh about it later.
Yeah.
I will say later in her life when we were no longer ungrateful teenagers,
Mhm.
she could laugh about it.
We are solidly like a good 45-ish minutes into this
It's a
episode, and we
Mother's
have
Day episode. We
ah
talked about Portia kind of because my mom is Portia. We've talked about
Violet.
Lady Danbury. I
Yeah.
think we are moving on.
We
And there's more, like, yeah, you talked about your mom being Violet, but so
when we
like
start looking,
obviously we're unstructured.
I do actually, I wonder if we have enough time to do a quick YouTube episode to go along with this. We will try, but what I'm
I was just
thinking,
gonna edit
Patty,
this and cut out all of the extra.
what I was thinking, Patty, is it can be part of it, and we still got like a quick one on here versus like a breakdown there, is if we were, I don't even have my book with everything. I want to do a like rating system of the mamas of Bridgerton. So you know how
Oh yeah,
there's
we can do that
there's
right now, and I can
there's
just like edit
there's
that.
God tier okay, okay, there's God tier okay, no, something else, God tier great, okay, don't like it, and then meh, as far as
Math goes in the middle. If you know, you know.
I know.
And then there's better than meh right above that.
We can make it meh and then better than meh and then okay mid ground and then
Yeah, well, I think we had decided, well, we can't use smash that, because there's smash or pass because
yeah,
it's the mamas, but something like smash, like meaning, yeah, I'd have her be my mama.
yeah.
So and then pass is at the bottom, and then you have better than meh, meh, okay, like okay, and less than okay in the middle.
It is ones that I can like wrap my head around after this. So let's dive in. I want to kind of talk about who we're gonna email. Don't
You can
need
skip it. It's my turn. Okay, so we're gonna the starring role mama Violet.
Yes.
She is unique in this time period because she loves her children and she likes being surrounded by her children. And although they did have governesses and nannies, she still spent a lot of time with them, except when she was grieving and major. So
Yeah.
even the best mamas can cause trauma.
And the thing is I want to kind of reiterate this point as well, because I think a lot of our listeners are likely parent or grandparents, and I think we've even talked to some of them of the guilt that we feel as parents of not performing at our best 24/7. And we even see a mama such as Violet, who we think is like the pinnacle of really what we kind of strive to be as a parent. And we see her go through these periods where she had a depressive episode, and whether that comes from your spouse passing away, it can come from a split up with your partner, it can come from losing a job, moving, not just losing yourself. It can come in so many different ways in life. And I think it's really important as a parent to acknowledge that it is okay not to be perfect all the time. And it's actually a really valuable lesson to teach to our children that it's okay not to be okay, because we are human, and it's not about who we are in our worst moments, but who we strive to be.
No, absolutely agree. Like, there's no, as many self-help parenting books as there are out there, there's no actual true one size fits all handbook for parenting. And I think
Yeah.
we have so many different mamas in the ton for that reason. And while you're sitting there talking about her not being a perfect parent and not making all the right choices all the time, I totally had a realization.
An epiphany.
and we can talk about it more when we analyze 5 through 8, but I figured out why, because John is not Marina. John is not like Marina at all.
Mm-hmm.
John's a good guy.
Yeah.
So I figured out why Violet was so reticent, because every parent does this, right? Every parent that has multiple children, like your parents had 2 children, so you might not have really seen this, where but there were 6 of us.
Two is multiple.
2 is multiple. There were 6 of us, and there were definitely the kids that the parent related to the most, or had, like, my dad had a namesake. My brother was a third. So there was that sort of relationship, because you have my entire name, right? And I look the most like my mother. So when I was little, I was called Little Nancy.
Yes.
Which my little neuro spicy self hated, because I was Patricia Lynn.
Yes.
So, but the reason that Violet had such an issue with John, because her love match was not going the same way that, like, look at Violet. I know. Hold on.
I have to onto this. I track onto this.
Yeah. So she's so excited about Colin and Penelope because that's a friends to lovers, and it reminds her of her and Edmund. But the reason she is so hard on Francesca and she's reticent about John, because that didn't come off the same, and Francesca is so poised and knew what she wanted, and there was no awkwardness, and she could talk the whole time and didn't mess up her words, is because Violet views Francesca as the child most like her.
I was about to say that.
She's the wallflower. She was an only child. Francesca isolated herself, was alone a lot.
Yes.
She related to Francesca. That's the child that's the most like me.
Yes.
She's going to have a love like me. She's the one who's going to have the love like me, and it ended up being Colin. Colin got the friends to lovers.
Like that. The way that I see it is very, very, very similar train of thought as is for those who don't really know as much from the books. Violet described herself as a wallflower and was very quiet and reserved, and wasn't out on the dance floor dancing and all those kinds of things. And so she is most reminded of herself in Francesca,
Penelope.
Francesca. But yeah, out of her children, we all thought it was Daphne, but actually it is Francesca.
It's Francesca.
And she did not like that side of herself. She loves who she is once she became a mum. Because realistically, like, some people say that you lose yourself in becoming a mum, or you can lose yourself. I see it completely differently. I think that for me personally, it is who I was always made to be in my soul. I am a mum. Like, that is who I was born to be, is to share. I have too much love for any one human who's not biologically mine. It's too much. It's like staring directly into the sun.
I've loved all children. Like, I always believed from the moment I held my niece, she was first born, and I was 11 years old. I was like, this is what I'm meant to be. I'm meant to be a mother, right? I'm meant to be a mother. I'm meant to be a mother. I mean, that shaped my whole life, right? Yes. Because that was the issue. That was one of the issues that we had.
Retain the tangent. Retain it.
Yeah. So I felt the same way. I've made a lot of mistakes as an adoptive mom, but something I've come to learn in my self-love and self-discovery journey is that there isn't a lot of emphasis put on grandma and aunts, because it does take a village to raise a family. And I was really meant to be an aunt. And, like, I love my son, but I am his mother, but I'm not his mother. I didn't give birth to him. There's always that part of the connection that's lost for me.
For those who aren't aware, Patty adopted her son when he was 14 years old.
Yes. So he is very much mine. I claim him. I signed papers. I stood in a courtroom, like, kind of like a marriage, but not like marrying a mother and a son. It's a commitment. Like, but there are things that I did not experience that are not a part of my motherhood journey. And so I truly realized, like, from that moment when I held my niece, what I thought was I need to be a mom, and what shaped my whole life is I need to be a mom. I never fully recognized how much impact I had as an aunt. And it wasn't until, all those kids are grown now. And, like, telling other people, like, you don't even know, like, sitting in a room with my nephew and having him tell somebody else, like, she helped raise, or she practically raised me. Getting all that validation now, like, made me realize how integral I was in their upbringing and they're growing up. And that makes me feel so fulfilled, especially going through everything I'm going through with my son now, our trials and tribulations right now, that like I've been a mom long before I became one. I am a mother figure and have been since I was so sorry that I took over your
Oh, no,
tangent,
no,
but
it's
that
okay.
is, there's
And
different journeys, there's different motherhood journeys. And I think everybody
absolutely.
looks at motherhood differently. Like some people say you lose yourself because they do. It's kind of a little overwhelming of an investment for them. And some people take to it like, a pig takes to a mud hole. I mean,
Mhm.
honestly, like it's their favorite place. Like being a mom is their favorite place. Like everybody's different.
Mm.
And motherhood is different. And that's why like I'll never disparage. Yes, we joke all the time about Portia Featherington being a narcissistic mother. But Portia Featherington, if she fell down in a pit with her daughters, she would tell them to climb on her back and she would claw them out of there.
I don't think
Like,
she would. I think she would teach them this is how you get out of a pit. She's not the kind of
yeah.
mum that's going to do things for her children. She's going to teach them how to do it for themselves. What it was
Well, I mean, she very much reminds me of my mom too. Like, she's ashamed of some of the decisions she made, and she doesn't want her kids finding out
she
about
wants to
that.
teach them the tools.
She wants to teach them how to be resilient, but she doesn't want to own up to the decisions she didn't like that got her where she was.
Yes.
And that was my mom. My mom held so much shame about some of the decisions she was kind of forced to make in life, which is very sad. And I see that in
Well,
Portia too. Like,
and that kind of tracks back a little bit to what I was saying about Violet, going back to my original tangent, because I'm like, must not lose it, must not lose it, must not lose it, because it's a good one, is so we have established that that Violet sees herself most in Francesca as a child, but that she may not have necessarily liked who she was as that kind of wallflower kind of a person. And there are areas in our lives
and that's why
who
she wants a man for Francesca who's going to pull her out of her shell.
that's exactly it, because
Mm-hmm.
Edmund helped her form, and I won't say he made her because they were a
Mm-mm.
partnership and no one else can ever make someone. We like when you're in a marriage, it is a partnership and you help each other grow. But he helped her grow, and then she had her children, and they helped her grow into the woman that she sees herself as and the person that she is really proud to be. The one
Yeah.
who's surrounded by the children, who's raised loving, smart, caring children, cheeky, occasionally excitable. She loves her children
Mm-hmm.
and she sees them not their successes, but who they are as people, as her success. And she is worried that if Francesca chooses someone so much like her, that she will never get out of that shadow and that she may have regrets one day that she allowed herself to stay in that shadow. So I can see, I mean, it's not her choice to make, but I can see where she has made that.
Yeah, and I think that it's not that she doesn't recognize that Francesca can make her own choice. She's already lived her experience and she's had a good experience and she wants the same for her daughter.
Mhm.
It's like when, a man starts a business and he wants to leave that business to his son or
Yeah.
whatever, but
Yeah.
then the son grows up and it's like,
I don't want.
I don't want your business. I want to become a lawyer. You know
Mm.
what I mean? Like, so it's kind of the same thing. Like, hey, I had this epic romance of, friends to lovers, and I was the wallflower and I was shy, and he saw through that and like all the things. And
Mhm.
I think that the reason she's so excited about Colin and Penelope and their whirlwind, like the way it looks to her as a whirlwind courtship, is Penelope's always felt like part of the family and now she gets to be. And it's kind of like, every parent has that friend of one of their kids that's their favorite too.
Mhm.
Like she loved my best friend Carol Lee because that's the daughter of her best, and
Yeah.
her best friend passed away at a pretty young age.
Mhm.
Darlene was only 47. And but she also, like my sister's friend Jenny, like she really liked her, like she became like a daughter of the house because she
Yes.
was always
Yeah.
over spending the night and things
The
like that.
the, the
So
Penelope's of it all.
yeah, like I can tell you Carol Lee was the Penelope to my Eloise in my childhood because she was the
Mhm.
one like always over spending the night. Jenny was always over spending, like my friend Teresa, I always went to her house. She was very much a homebody. So whenever I stayed, like whenever we did spend the nights, I went over there. And
Mm.
then Mindy had a couple of friends that never came to the house hardly. She always went to, so there was only so many people that were, daughters of the house.
Everyone
And
came to
that
our
was
house.
Penelope. I can see that with your family.
Yeah, because my parents were
There's
really
only so many people I felt safe enough to bring to my house.
my parents would only like they had to know the parents really, really well to allow me to their house. Were they drinkers? Were they smokers? Would they potentially fight? Was I safe?
Yes.
Those kinds of
Yes.
things. And
Yes.
my parents
Like, that's how I'm answering your parents for if you could spend the night at my house.
yeah. And
Yes,
the
my
funny
dad's a
thing
drinker.
is,
They both smoked and
yeah,
they do fight.
I would not have been allowed to your house. Absolutely
Well, not
not.
only
And then
I'm
and then my
15 years
parents
older than you. That would have not been allowed.
And then my parents, well, no. And then my parents also had the rule of how many times have we met those parents? Like, there was, and my mum immediately distrusted any parent who would allow their child to our house if they had not met.
Yes. And I didn't realize, even as a kid, I was that kid that was like, why do you have to meet the parents? Like, why can't I just give you their phone number and their address? Like, I understood giving the phone number and the address of the house I was going to be at, because I live in Ohio and we have a big kidnapping story that never got solved, and it was Amy Mahalovic.
I was reading about that the other day, actually.
Yeah. And her body was found
not far
between
from
my old house I grew up in and where I lived for a long time in New London. Her body was found like directly like in the center of all that.
Yeah.
And my older sister is actually in the newspaper.
Turns out it was Patty. She's doing
my older sister was in the newspaper. Like, they put our address paper practice that a teenage driver reported seeing the man, because my sister was driving and he was stopped and he was in his trunk, and she pulled over to see if he needed help, and he got crappy with her and said no and slammed the trunk, and she left because creeped her out. But that was right down the road from our house, so yeah, it happened very close. So I understood phone number, address, but I didn't understand wanting to meet them. And my mom started trusting us and who we hung out with, because we were my sister and I were both the good girl.
Yeah.
We didn't like breaking rules necessarily. We broke some, they were healthy. That we have stories, but it was nothing that harmed anyone or hurt anyone. No. And
my rules were definitely like, they were normal, typical child things, but definitely things that could have ended up with us dead. Like,
I'm hoping this neighbor is no longer with us. She was older. If she's a fan, she's now going to know it was us. We hung out at her house. She was a cool lady. But that's why we chose her mailbox, because she was a safe person. Mm-hmm. We'd never vandalized anything. We'd never TP'd anyone's house. So we TP'd her mailbox. But we also, to get the toilet paper to stay, because it was a mailbox and not a tree, we poured honey on it.
You're diabolical.
And that attracted bees.
Oh no.
It attracted bees, and there were bees, and she had to pay somebody to DB her mailbox.
911. Can I get a call out on a Patty Cole?
I was a child, hilarious. And my friends were children. And that's literally the worst thing I did in my childhood.
Mine was just like silly things, like my brother and I going and exploring the sewer systems, not sewer, like the water drain, and we were trying to,
like, under the road, like they had those culverts under the road so the water could go through. Yeah, yes. We played in those too.
So we used to try and map out from our neighborhood where they all went. But if you get flash flooding, you're dead. We would come across so many spiders under there.
That was the legend. Why are you in there?
So
if
many
it
snakes.
Rained, you'd be dead.
So many snake skins, and like where they were was like backing onto a swamp, and I distinctly, my first ever memory of my entire life was being chased by a brown snake from the swing set that backed right onto there. Like, there was so many brown snakes, and for those who aren't familiar with brown snakes, if you get bit by a juvenile brown snake, you're dead in under 2 hours, and if you're a child and you get bit, you got like half an hour. So like growing up in Australia, we pulled some definite things that were like really shouldn't have been happening, but it was just 90s growing up in Aussie,
This is really just us talking about our mothers.
Yeah, this is truly a Mother's Day extravaganza where we will sprinkle in some Bridgerton.
Let's sprinkle in a little.
I think we're going to have to actually do a secondary. And I mean, when we do these episodes, it doesn't by any means mean that we're done with this. Like we'll probably circle back to it at a later date to go more in depth.
Well, and we did the Violet versus Portia as Mama's episode too for episode 4 early on in episode
Yes.
4.
But we do have
So,
a number of mamas in the ton, and they all have kind of different strengths and weaknesses, and
yeah.
some of them are more weaknesses than strengths. We've
Well,
got
and I would say like Violet is the most loving mama, and I would say that Queen Charlotte is the least. And not that she probably doesn't love her children, but because she's the queen, there were more people to help raise them because she understood, she
mm,
learned how wanting to pick her own orange meant a human being
yeah,
lost a job and did not have an
yes.
income. So she had 15 kids. I guarantee you, they each had their own governess, they each had their own nanny. She
Yeah.
was employing people. And that meant, though, that
Disassociates you from
she
them.
didn't bond with them
Yeah.
the same as she would have if
Well,
she didn't have those
and
responsibilities.
I think because not only was she a queen, but she was essentially this as well because she had to mask George's kind of insanity by taking on a
Mm-hmm.
lot of those roles and passing it off as him. So she was really fulfilling the role of the two most important people in the
Yeah,
country.
she passed him off as introverted
Yeah.
for much of their young royal life. And it wasn't until he was older and some of the things that occur, like in real life, how he handled the war on independence and
Hmm.
America wanting independence, that's when he started really getting the label of Mad King George. They started seeing, as a leader, they started seeing some of the things he was doing, like, okay,
Well,
so she probably hid a lot of that and took on a more public figure role that probably had not occurred too much in the royal history.
she didn't, it sounds sad, but she didn't have time to be a mum because she was being a mum.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? That's actually, speaking of really impressive women and mothers, is our second female Prime Minister, Jacinda Ardern, who obviously is pretty famous across the world for how she handled COVID and a whole bunch of
Oh yeah,
situations.
I admired her a
You know
lot
that
during
she
COVID.
fell pregnant just before she took term. So she was, I think, 3 months pregnant when she took office. She had her baby. She took 3 months off, and then she was raising a baby whilst completing the remainder of her 3.5 year term. And in that time period, she had mosque shootings. We had our first ever terrorist attack in New Zealand, which was horrendous. We had earthquakes, flooding, volcanoes, COVID. So I mean,
Mm-hmm.
some people may fault how some situations were handled, but she was a mother first to this country. Like finances aside, you could tell that any situation that hit, you'd see her on the news and she was like holding back tears for what was happening to her country. And she truly loved New Zealand and was doing everything within her power to do the best by them. And I think that really goes a long way. And I think the ability to show empathy, some people may consider it weakness, but I see it as an absolute strength.
Oh no, I
Not that I fault
100%.
Queen Charlotte for how she was in survival mode, like 100%, but
Well,
different
and
time
as we
period.
said, there a lot of people are dealing with trauma, and I think that's so relevant to today because there's so many people who are processing and dealing and learning about trauma and how it affects us and our decisions that we make. That I really do applaud Shondaland for exposing it in a way where we can talk about it and it be something that's not so close to home because as somebody who is going through that journey and processing the things that shaped me as a person and caused me to handle relationships the way I do, friendships, my own self-worth and things like that it really helps to be able to watch a show like that and see that in other, like, they're not just doing representation of different abilities or ethnic heritage.
Hmm.
They're also doing the representation for neurospicy and for different types of trauma and how that plays out. And I think that's just
Yeah.
the tangent.
It's my life in absolute chaos for the last three to
Mine
four weeks.
too.
And you know what the whole thing, how they say it's always something. And I'm like, it is always something because I feel like I just keep waiting and waiting and waiting. And I'm like, okay, once we get through this, we'll have a little calm. But then something else pops up and there is never, ever calm ever again.
No. And I
Oh,
literally just said this texting back and forth with Smaug the other day. I said, all life is series of
Chaos linked
learning
together.
moments, a series of learning moments packed between two dates on a dash.
That's
That's all life is a lot
that's
of learning.
And I think and this is one of the funny things is someone said, oh, when you have a baby, it gets easier. And I said, I don't actually think that's true. I don't think it gets easier. I think you just learn to adjust to the chaos and that becomes your new norm. And then the stakes get
Mm-hmm.
higher and higher every time and you just adjust to it every time.
What, each time you have a kid?
No, like every time something
Or each time?
major happens in your
Oh,
life.
yeah. You rewire your life. Like everything you go through, everything you learn, you download and you rewire your life. And that is why folks that do live through a lot of trauma, like their brain is completely rewired.
Well, that was one of the points that I actually wanted to make today. Oh my Lord, am I getting back to the main point? A miracle. One of the points that I wanted to make today is I'm really looking forward to season 4 for one very specific purpose, and that is to watch Portia's character arc
Portia.
in becoming a grandma. Because as I was saying about how, becoming a parent can be really healing, but I think in ways it can also be really traumatizing, as we see with Lady Danbury, because those children are a physical representation of the trauma that she suffered with her husband. But in
Mm-hmm.
seeing Simon and Daphne, although Simon isn't technically her child, that is her chosen child. Not to say that her own
It's her godson.
children,
Back then,
yeah,
that was a big deal. Yeah.
it was a really, really big deal. And even now, like my little cousin Caitlin, like she takes being Ezra's godmother with the utmost pride.
Mm-hmm.
That's her boy. And
Well, and
even
my best friends, like their kids, I'm their aunt.
yeah.
And like, even though I'm not literally their aunt,
Oh,
I'm their
I got in
aunt.
trouble yesterday because of you.
Well, it wouldn't be the first time I've heard that.
I packed away the affirmations because we're packing up the house. Mine. Patty sent over this gorgeous plaque, this wooden little plaque with like little dinosaurs printed on it of affirmations for Ezra's birthday. And he loves doing the affirmations, but we're packing up the house and I had to pack it away. And he's like, but it's mine. And I'm like, and it will still be yours at the new house, but we need a pack, buddy. No, it's mine.
Aw,
So
yeah,
that
like
was
my best friend's daughter posted, she tagged me on a Facebook post of a dolphin figurine that
Mhm.
said anybody
I had
anybody who
one.
was a kid, anyone who was a kid in the
I
90s
had
knew
one.
somebody who had this figurine,
I had
and they
it.
were probably an aunt. They were your aunt. And she tagged me and I said, "And funny, I'm your aunt." And she's like, "Ignore."
Yeah. But I think that for like as we saw with Lady Danbury, I think that in Simon and Daphne having children, I think that was really healing in a way for Lady Danbury. Like she's gone through stages of healing, and that was having Simon come back in her life, that was forming the relationship that she has with Violet because she's sort of the daughter she nearly had in a way. And I think
Hmm.
that we're going to see a really similar arc with Portia is she didn't get to have that healing arc because she was still in the grips of Lord Featherington's kind of grasp. And so I think in a way
And
she's
I
gone
think
through a
that's
lot of
why we
healing.
have the picture of Portia squeaking Colin's cheeks, because
Yes,
she views him as a man.
the man of the house. Yeah.
She never viewed Finch or Denki
I
as
don't
a
think
true man.
I don't think she viewed Lord Featherington as the man of the house either, to be fair. The
I
original, I
don't
mean.
either. No,
I think she
because
did
she had to do so much
I
to
think
keep the house afloat.
she did a little bit more so with cousin Jack
Jack.
because he was willing to scheme and do things in service of the family, whereas with Archibald he was doing it purely in service of
For
himself.
himself.
But and Portia, the second that she saw that he was now doing it just in service of himself, that he was going to run away with the money, that was when she immediately lost all faith and any
Hmm.
ideas of having a romance with him. Is her loyalty was always going to be to her daughters. So I think a big part of her healing as a mother has been in watching her children find loving marriages, whether that be love
Yeah.
matches or them finding love within their marriage afterwards with the likes of Prudence. And I think that in seeing her become a grandma is going to be a
Well,
huge.
and her each of her daughters found a man that centered her and wants
Yeah.
to take care of her and wants
Yes.
to be the best husband for her. And Portia didn't have that.
Yeah.
And I think that Colin has restored her faith in the male half of the race. I
Yes.
do hope we get to see her have another lover's era herself for that reason.
I
Like,
suspect we will, but maybe not. Maybe not season 4. Maybe season 5.
no, I don't even say season 5. I think Portia's gonna hang out for a bit, but I think that she's gonna come around in like
I
probably
think
season 6,
I was gonna
maybe
say
meet someone in season 5, but
I was going to say
develop in
maybe
season
season 7
6.
or
Yeah.
8 because they need to leave like enough interesting arcs for us in the later seasons. So
Mm-hmm.
that could be kind of part of her development is she has healed fully through having her grandchildren. And I do say grandchildren because she's got 3 of them. Two
Three
girls and a
now.
boy,
Yeah.
and we suspect that there is actually a 4th because Nicholas said children, and I think, or was it
Yeah.
Luke? One of the two said children, and
Well,
so
yeah, there's a 2-year time jump
and
where
so
we're
did
believing.
Anthony. He
So,
said children,
yeah.
not child. So
Yeah.
I suspect that we're going to have 2 from each of them minimum. I'd actually really like to see Anthony and Kate have twins. I don't know why, but I want twins.
Yeah, and I don't think any of them have
No,
twins
none.
from the
Which
books,
is
right?
actually not super
I
like out of
still
that
I
many
still want to
children.
see I still want to see that Antony and Kate's first child is a girl and not
Yes,
little,
yes, yeah.
not the Lord, because then Colin has something
Hmm.
over Antony because Antony has held something
Yeah.
over. And I was thinking this as I was listening to our kind of listening to our podcast and thinking about how you had titled it Bridgerton Bros Analysis when it wasn't.
I'd clicked on. So what happened was I'd clicked on and just started listening to the Bridgerton Bros episode. I haven't started editing. I just was like kind of listening through a little bit when I wrote it because I was like, oh, do I have
Yeah.
time? I might edit it. And then Stephen goes, I'm going to shut down the computer again. So you're going to lose whatever progress unless you can finish it now. And I'm like, I can't finish it now. I'll just upload what I've got. So I uploaded that one, but I'd just been editing Bridgerton Bros. So my brain
Yeah.
was on that
But
track.
that part where we were talking about Gregory and like what his boggart was,
Yes.
and so I was thinking about the whole issue with the Bridgerton brothers, since we already did that podcast episode and I can't really edit it. But the whole issue is that all of them have the title energy. All of them have the Lord energy because
Mhm.
they are sons of a lord, of a lord, of a lord, of a lord, of a lord,
Yes.
right? That viscountship has been
Mhm.
generational.
Yeah.
So all of them have that sense of entitlement, that, that attitude and everything, but somebody had to be 2, somebody had to be 3, and somebody had to be 4.
Yes.
And I think what we see I think the Colin being the father of the new Lord Featherington, like for him, that's the purpose, because he always
Mhm.
envied Antony, had an easy set. He was born
Yes.
the heir, so that made it easy. And now
Well,
he's got that. So I think we're even going to
and
see,
you know what's
a lot lighter Colin
we're
too.
we're
We're going
gonna
to go
get
back to cheeky, awesome, fun,
you know what we're
charming.
gonna see? We are going to get to see Edmund in Colin because he now has to teach his son. He has to think back through the lessons. He may have to go to Anthony and say, "Hey, I need to teach my son how to run this household. Could you give me some pointers in it?" And it could be an
How did
actually
dad
really,
teach you a bonding
yeah,
thing for them?
talking about Edmund and how he, like you were the
Oh,
only
and
one
if
who had this
and they'll
relationship
be
with
doing
dad.
it together. Their kids are going to be the same
Yes.
age. They're going to
Yes.
be doing it together. That we finally get Antony and
Oh,
Colin on the same page and being
if
deeper.
if season 3
Mm.
is the lovers era, season 4 is the healers era. I just
And
got
then
goosebumps.
season 5, all the brothers, like all the Bridgerton bro trio, are married, and that'll be the brothers era. Sorry, Eloise. And that's why we have the brothers going to beat up Philip, because they
Hmm.
are all together.
And this is the first time that we get to see in
And
season
that's
in
gonna
season
make it
5 Gregory being like, "I'm a big
that's gonna
boy."
that's gonna make it even more awesome,
Yeah.
Gregory getting to go with them, because they're now a unit. The 3 brothers are all married
Hmm.
men, they're all got kids, they're all fathers, they're all a
Hmm.
unit, and they go after, because they're now looking at Eloise not as Eloise their sister, but they're
Yeah.
like, they all got daughters, and they're
Yes.
like, oh
Yes.
hell no. And they
Hmm.
ride out, and Gregory's like, I get to go.
Take me, take me, take me. I fit.
Like I now am excited. I'm
I'm
always excited for that scene, but I'm even more
You
excited for
know
that
what?
scene.
I like they're never ever going to do it, but I wish that they would have Gregory dress as for the masquerade ball.
Hmm,
Pinocchio. I'm a real boy. I would die.
that's hilarious. So we've kind of touched on the major mamas in the ton.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
we've also
so
got the mamas of, we've got the Araminta, we've got the Lady Keswick,
uh,
but I presume she's a
there's
mum.
not Lady Keswick is in the ton, but I don't think she had kids.
Well, I'm
I
not entirely
honestly think
sure.
I think she's a spinster, and I think that's why she is so harsh on Penelope because she's the one who says, "With so little hope for."
Yes.
I think she is
She's a
herself a
witch.
spinster.
She's a
Yeah,
witch. Burn
she's
her
a
at the
witch. I
stake.
hate her. Sorry, that's from one of my favorite Christmas songs, 12 Pains of Christmas. And
Hmm.
it's like one of them is facing my in-laws and by the end of it, the late because every time they go down the list, it's all
Hmm.
it's like a comedy thing. So every time they go down the list, it gets funnier and funnier and they say different things. So instead of saying facing my in-laws,
Oh, so
she
it's
gets to a point where she's
Partridge Tree except like comedy.
yeah, it's the 12 days of Christmas, but
Yeah,
it's the
yeah,
12 pains of Christmas.
yeah.
Look it up. It's hilarious. But
Okay.
instead of like facing my in-laws, she's like, she's a witch. I hate her.
I love that. Oh.
So
Wait till
yeah, that's
Gregory
how
meets his in-laws. Whew.
well, and I think like Colin is squeaky cheeky face to face, but she walks out of the room and he's like, God, your mother.
She's exhausting.
She is
And
exhausting.
then he's like, let's go travel. I need a space from your mum.
He's like, I love you, Pen. I know you love your mother, but we've got to go.
We got to go. I need a break. That was
I
basically
need a
my
break.
parents when taking care of my granddad is would go on holidays because they were like, we just need a break. And I'm like, I get it.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, we've got
So of our Bridgerton wives,
Mhm.
like let's talk about them as mothers. Who do we think is the matron mother? Like who was meant to be a mom?
Daphne.
Daphne. It's all she wanted to
It's
be.
Daphne. And you know what? I feel so sad
And
that we
book
don't.
Daphne because we don't get to see Daphne as a mom too much. We
Well, and
saw
that's
her with Augie,
yeah.
but Daphne in like she embraced the mess. Like when Colin goes to ask her about
Yes.
love, like
Yes.
the
The
house is
chaos.
kind of messy and
Yeah.
it's chaotic, and she comes out and
She
her
doesn't
hair's
look
down
put
from her
together.
bun.
Yeah.
Yeah. But she
And
looks happy, and he points out to himself his internal
yeah,
monologue
yeah,
is like
yeah.
she looks like she's in her element. This is what she's meant to do. Like she's so happy.
And that's the thing is like chaos doesn't have to look perfectly put together. Like one of my girlfriends was saying yesterday that she's like, oh,
Really,
my
chaos doesn't have to look perfectly put together. I think you meant motherhood. But what you said is
motherhood is chaos.
perfect. Motherhood is chaos. Like chaos does not look perfectly put together, like for reals.
Yeah, one of my girlfriends was saying yesterday, she's just bought her first house and moved in, and she's like, my mum was texting me, giving me a hard time because she's like, she thought that I needed to mow my lawns, but she's like, my her partner is on deployment at the moment for 3 months in the Falklands, so that's a really really hard time moving into your first house. Your partner's not there, and she's like, I'm really suffering with my mental health because of it. So I opted to go catch up with one of my best friends for the afternoon instead of mowing my lawns, and my mum gave me a really hard time about it. And I said, like, even as a mother, there's some days where I have to look at my house and say, you know what, it's clean, but it's not tidy, and that's okay. Like it's safe, it's clean, the food's put away, the parts that I need to be clean, which is my bathroom, my kitchen, as long as those are, I can deal with the rest because
Well,
I've
and
made
for real,
memories with
like
my child.
my son is not here. I'm supporting him via phone right now. My son is not here, and I'm pretty much taking care of myself. And we all know I'm going through a reparenting of
Mm-hmm.
myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm doing really well. I keep my counters cleaned off, my dishes are done,
Mm-hmm.
and my house looks tidy. But the one thing I struggle to get to on more of a regular basis is sweeping and mopping my floor. Like
Yes.
even today, like when we get done podcasting, I'm
Heck, I
going
have the vacuum.
and I'm gonna cheat and vacuum my
Yeah.
laminate
Yeah. I
hardwood,
vacuum it.
laminate floor. I'm gonna vacuum it because of dog hair, and then I'm gonna actually pull out my Bissell. I'm not trying to be sponsored, the spin mop thing, because it's easier for me than to
I
hot
need to
mop.
get
That's
out my
harder on my
Bissell as
back.
well, but it's not hot enough today. Mine's the Bissell upholstery Bissell, please sponsor us. We will wrap
We
you.
love Bissell. Like, I have dogs. I love Bissell.
I use my
Yeah.
Bissell because she
And I have
makes
a
marks on
Bissell
my
carpet
couch.
cleaner and I have the Bissell spin
I
mop.
have the
Like, yeah.
upholstery cleaner, the spot cleaner. It's brilliant.
Oh,
For any mums out there, I
that's the
highly
one thing
recommend.
I want. I want the spot cleaner
Oh,
so bad.
it's I use it all the time actually, and it's amazing. I highly rate it.
Yeah, we're not sponsored, so that tells you Bissell is awesome.
I mean, maybe they can retroactively let us describe to you how we use these products. They're the best. And it's ironic that it's on a Mother's Day episode as well, of course.
If you're thinking about Mother's Day presents and you're listening to this when it drops in the US on Saturday,
Yeah.
the day before, get your mom a Bissell. Like, I personally am not a useful gift person, but if
Yeah.
anybody wanted to get me this Bissell spot cleaner for Mother's Day,
Oh,
I
I
would
love
not
mine.
complain.
Like especially, and it actually it is an
Because to me, that's
investment, but
well,
it
and for me,
saves.
that's a frivolous gift because I already have a vacuum, I already have a carpet cleaner, but I have the big Bissell carpet cleaner with the
Yeah,
handheld thing, and
yeah,
my
yeah, yeah.
handheld thing is broken on it, so I only have the carpet cleaner.
Yeah.
And I just watched the commercials of those Bissell spot cleaners, things like that's so little and awesome. Like, to
Yeah.
me, I'm not a fan of like, don't you dare give me a vacuum for my birthday kind of person. Like, do
Mm-hmm.
not get me a practical gift just because it broke. But a spot cleaner to me is frivolous because I already have all the things that do the job.
Well, you know what? I
So,
think like it is absolutely prolonged the life of my couch by being able to clean it I probably do it once every 6 months, and that's purely because over winter time, trying to do anything in New Zealand that requires drying out, you're gonna be sitting on a wet
mhm.
couch for a few days.
Oh, it does. Like, yeah. Pet hair, the stuff pets
Yeah.
get down in cushions, and
Well,
kids too. Like,
Ezra is currently learning how to write letters, and he's got this preschool book that he's been practicing. It's his favorite thing in the world to do at the moment. I do my book today. Yes, telling we can do a handwriting book, and silly me, he doesn't have the pressure yet that really like makes a pencil show up decently on those kind of more shinier material
mhm.
pages. So I gave him a pen, and I may have
Love it.
lost the pen in the couch, and it may have drawn on my couch in multiple spaces. So that's my job this week. I mean, he didn't do it. I made that work myself. Like that was
Well,
my
just put a
bad.
little rubbing alcohol on a paper towel and
Oh no, the
wipe
the
at it
the Bissell does a brilliant job getting it out. Like
on
one's wiping.
pen.
Yeah.
You're seriously selling me on it. I need somebody out there to give me a Bissell spot because there's not enough side hustle in the world to
Bissell.
make me even think I would get it.
Yeah, I know. Bissell, please send Patty a spot cleaner. As if
Okay,
we could
okay,
make
let's do
those
that.
sorts of.
What? Okay. Since this is Mother's Day episode, what modern day appliance would each of the mothers think
Oh.
everybody who has a baby, what each of the mothers would love and want so much? Violet is seriously like the Google Calendar
Yes.
because she has so many kids.
Yeah.
She needs the Google Calendar.
The
She needs to keep
birthdays,
track of all the
the
stuff,
middle
the
names.
birthdays, the weddings, the social events, like what kid, Francesca's
And
recitals or
imagine
whatever.
her as a grandma. She is going to have so many grandchildren. Like
Mhm.
one of my great aunties was up to like 38 grandchildren or something. And I'm like, how do you remember and great grandchildren? Because they all started way younger. Whereas for my granddad, who was 96 when
Mhm.
he died, the only great grandchild that he had was mine. My child, which is very
When my
unusual for
mom
his age.
when my mom passed away, she had 17 grand and she had 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 great grandchildren.
Wow.
That was when she passed.
And she was way younger than my granddad.
Yeah, she was almost 70.
Yeah, so my granddad was 22 years older and he had one
Mhm.
child. Like, I don't know, this generation's just, I mean, at least in New Zealand, like all of my friends in my friend group, I'm the youngest girl out of five of us girls. And
Mhm.
we all had children roughly about 30 to 32 years of age, our
Yeah.
first child.
So I don't think Portia's modern day thing would be an appliance or whatever. Portia's
She is all
Portia's
about self-love. I think I know what her
no
modern
no
day
no 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 no
appliance
no
would
no no
be.
no no.
She
Portia's
says,
modern
no, no,
day
no.
thing.
She says, I don't need no man. I got this.
But I think no, that would be Lady Danbury. Lady Danbury has all the electronics. She has a whole trunk full. She's like, no man is ever gonna be on top of me again.
Oh, no, Portia's side hustle is you know how there was the Tupperware parties, except it's the
it's sex toys. What are they called? Something pleasure, right?
I was too young. Like they weren't a thing when like
I
at my
wasn't.
age.
I was invited to a couple. Oh, what were they
I've
called?
seen them in movies where people like
No,
sensual
they're a real thing.
sensual
Yeah.
I
Sensual
don't
something or pleasure something. Yeah.
yeah.
But it was Tupperware for sex toys.
Yes.
Or like
Yeah.
Pampered Chef, or it was multi-level
That
marketing at its finest.
would be Portia's side hustle as a
Portia's side
mum in
hustle.
2020 or 1990s
But
at least.
but her modern day thing, and that would be her. Like that was me. I was a hustle mom. Like after my mom passed away and I moved back to Ohio and I didn't have the job I thought I was going to have.
Mhm.
Like I did every side gig known to man. I was a Pampered Chef consultant. I worked part-time pizza delivery on top of all that. Like, and and it was kind of my modern day, like my mom's thing when we were young was we're going to have a yard sale. We're going to put out everything we can that'll sell and try and make some quick money to like pay the electric bill. For me, it was side gigs. Like I'm going to do a side hustle. Like I'm going to find something side hustle, and now that I'm older, I'm trying to be smart and I'm trying to figure out multiples of income kind of thing. But that would be Portia.
No one hustles more than a mum who's in need.
No, Portia is the Regency hustle mom. Like I coined hustle mom. I called myself a hustle mom. That's how I got through that. I was a hustle. Portia is the Regency hustle.
Whereas like Lady Danbury.
But I think modern day, Portia's big modern day change from Regency that she would love is the fact that she could have a bank account with only her name on.
Yes, that 100%. She'd be like, I can have my own money, my goats and mine.
She would be like, I need to go to the Modiste. I need 1,000 pounds, but really all the dresses are only 200 pounds, and she's depositing $800 away from her husband. That would be her. Like, just throwing this out there. I had a family member. It was not me. And I'm not going to say like what level of family, but I had a family member who had a pretty controlling spouse, and they would budget a certain amount of money for the week. So my family member got really good at meal planning and couponing and all the things you need to do so that every week when they went, they were expected to spend so much money. And this person never, because the amount was so low for the size of the family, they never expected a receipt because they're like, oh yeah, they're definitely spending all that money. But it was a way of like, oh, there's this many, you only get to spend this.
Never
so that makes sure there's no extra
female.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep gender out of it, but you figured it out. It is a female.
I don't know any man who has ever couponed on that level.
Smaug. Like, and that's why because I'm a coupon queen. Like back in the day, I had stockpiles. I was a good couponer. Couponing's just not the same.
No,
but
I've seen some of those extreme coupon videos. Those are insane.
My family member grew a decent amount of money. And that's how they would do, like, going to the water park in the summer. And
they grew a decent amount of money. They they planted the money tree. Hey,
like, oh, you said my budget's $75 a week. Well, I'm figuring it out on $55 a week, and I'm stashing $20.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, I want to take the kids to the water park. We don't have the money for that. Yes, we do. It only worked one time. Each time she had to figure something out different after that, but it worked at least once. And change, like he always turned up his nose at change. Like you cannot save enough change to do. She paid for a whole vacation with change.
What was the house? Can I briefly? Sorry, I have the neighbors have finally turned up, and I'm just gonna pause. All right, we're gonna start winding down. Is there any other mamas that we really wanted to kind of unwind? I mean, I do want to unpack them more in an episode where we're more focused. Maybe have bullet points for me to go off to keep this at the moment because
I told you to write names down.
I know because my life's so kind of busy at the moment. I haven't been writing notes for the last few weeks. And we've just kind of been doing unstructured episodes. But as you can tell, they do become a little bit more tangenty and a little bit more chaotic when I don't have that structure. But
oh no, the gem of this episode was Portia's going to be a sex toy side hustle mom. That's the best.
She would have all the hustles.
She would. She'd be like, Tupperware, Avon lady,
Mm-hmm.
pampered chef. Like
And she
she
would
would
have,
literally
because Avon, they
um
do like the face creams. Like I can imagine her being like, "Oh, are
yeah,
you starting to experience some
or
post?"
Mary Kay, the makeup, Mary
Mm.
Kay, she would be your Mary Kay lady. She would be oh, what's the
Portia would be at the
I don't know
top.
if she'd really I don't know if she'd really get into the essential oils,
Oh, I think
but
she would
she
anything
would
that
do
she can.
anything that's money.
Anything, yeah, I think she would be the queen of the pyramid scheme. She'd be running the pyramid schemes. Not that I'm saying that all of these are, they're multi-level marketing, but I'm saying that
Honestly, I think her whole thing would be YouTube and all of that. Like she would be that person
I
that grows a
think
YouTube channel in 30 days
I
and
think Portia
creates
would
digital
100%.
products on Amazon.
I
Yeah.
think Portia would 100% be in jail for a multi-level marketing scheme where she gets caught out
Oh
or
my
money
God.
laundering, and
No,
she's the
she would
Martha
be.
Stewart,
She did it.
and then
She'd
she
be
comes out
Bernie Madoff.
and
She
then she
is
comes out
Bernie
with
Madoff.
her own cooking show, her own cooking book, and she makes her fortune. She is the Martha Stewart.
Yeah,
Just a
Bernie
professional hustler.
King Madoff. She would have a pyramid scheme. She's defrauded everyone. She'd spend some years in jail and then yeah,
Yeah.
she'd come out. She'd have a book deal, movie deal, you name
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. So we will wrap up here today because I have to get to a meeting with my boss in an hour. So
I think we just decided that Portia is like Violet's the favorite mother, but Portia's probably the best mother. Like she is the mother, like she would do anything. I
I mean,
don't know if
I,
Violet would do
well,
anything,
and this is the thing is I think that
but I do think they come
different
from circumstances
different
where,
parents suit different
yeah,
children as well. And I mean, I think like
and different circumstances. The more resources you have, the easier it is to parent.
as much as Penelope probably partially wishes that Violet was her mum, and I mean technically now she is. As much as she probably wishes that she was raised in a more loving environment in certain aspects, I think having Portia as a parent and technically Archibald as a father, if you can really call him that, he was just realistically the sperm donor, the runner of the household, but it was realistically Portia. I think that having
Mm-hmm.
the parents that she had made her an incredibly strong character, and
Yes.
you. And we were talking about this before, what you were going through with Smorgan and the message you sent is I think that when we go through certain things in life that are really, really difficult, I mean, they can, I mean, sometimes it breaks us. But I mean, for myself, the hardships that I've gone through in my life, I would never take them away because I think they've taught me some really, really valuable lessons. Like my first boyfriend, very much like your ex-husband, it was traumatic. It nearly killed me. It put me in a hospital. It
I got a
it
migraine disorder. Yep. It
yeah,
messed with
like
my health.
it had really serious both physical and mental effects on my life, but I would never change it because after that I realized I'm never ever going to date someone who makes me feel that way. I'm never going to be with someone who actively is cheating on me and risking my health in that way. I'm never going to
Mm-hmm.
allow myself to be treated and to be isolated. It made me realize the things that I wasn't willing to put up with in a relationship. And when I got together with Stephen, because of that, it's not like I asked him to be anything or expected anything per se, but I said, these are my boundaries. And if you can't
Mm-hmm.
respect them, then we can't proceed from here. But I, from there on, knew exactly what I wanted out of life. And I think that it's had a huge effect on how we progressed in our early relationship because I'd come from such trauma and learned from it and knew what I did not want.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that Penelope, you know, and I think that her having children, she's going to see a whole different side of her mum. And I think that is going to be
Yes,
a
that
really, really
happens.
healing thing for their relationship. Like even my mum
Yes.
and I have always been really close, but having Ezra has made us so much closer. And I really, really value the fact that my mum, for the most part, I mean, sometimes she gets little ideas and I've got to put her back in her box. I'm like, grandma box, other box, respect
Yeah.
the difference. But for the most part, my mum is really like, I could not have gotten through the last few weeks without my parents. They've been taking Ezra. I mean, I still don't do sleepovers without him. I've never had a night away from my little boy in over now. But they'll keep him at their house and we'll just turn up at 10 o'clock, go to bed, get up in the morning, eat some breakfast, and then come back to the house and work on it. So we're not risking his health with the sanding and the
Mm-hmm.
painting and the mold and all the things.
Right.
But yeah, having a kid can be like really, really healing for your relationship with your parent as well.
Oh yeah, like going through all those things, you start realizing that's why they,
Yes.
right?
That's why they're tired.
Um,
That's why they weren't always
that's
perfect.
that's why we had the round tables. I called them round tables. It was definitely healing from narcissism on two different generations. My mom, my sister, and I sat around a table trying to figure out all the stresses of life at that time. We were in it with her. We were three musketeers, like figuring it out as we went. And we would have screaming match around the table. And, but I came to learn as I was going through all of that again with my ex-husband, kid, and a teenage kid nonetheless. It gave me a whole new perspective on what she was. I mean, I went through a lot at that time, but it allowed me.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's why I love that we get to see so many different mamas of the ton, ranging from the Queen Charlottes who are very detached. We've got the Portia who isn't emotionally supportive, but she's raised up the most incredibly resourceful and strong
Mm-hmm.
women. You've got the Violets of the world who are that emotionally supportive, but maybe has not raised her children to be quite as resourceful or quite
No,
so
but she has raised
resilient.
them to believe that they can achieve anything.
Well, you know what the difference is? Is Violet has raised her children to know that if they are not enough, but like they will always have the backup of family. And that's the difference.
Yes.
Portia
So they can
has,
try anything. They can
yes,
take a leap of faith because
yes,
they're going to land
they've got
softly.
backup.
Whereas Portia didn't have that. So she had to raise her daughters to be a little more resilient and a little
Yeah.
more hardcore. Yeah.
Yes, whereas Queen Charlotte, I mean, she didn't raise her children, but you can tell that they were all raised with a silver spoon in their mouth. They never have had to
Mm-hmm.
to fight for anything, to work for anything. They've had just everything handed to them, and because of that, she doesn't really like the children that they are. And I
No,
don't
but
think
her daughters were loyal to her.
they
None of
were.
them
Sorry, her
married
sons, yeah,
because
they
none
thought
of
they
the
had to take
daughters
them,
married because of her being stuck in that relationship
which
with
kind of
George,
didn't
and
really
they
make
wanted to be there
sense.
for her.
I mean, I think they've gone a little bit off of
had they
real,
gotten
but
had they
they've
gotten husbands, they would have had to go live in their own houses and stuff, and they didn't want to leave their mother.
I know, but what I'm saying is they haven't really made it make sense. Make it make sense. They haven't made it make sense because in the TV series, we don't see her having any sort of real attachment to her children. She's not maternal.
Mm-mm.
She's not emotionally loving or soft in any sort of way, or very, very few
No,
times do we see that soft side to her.
because
And
everyone to a queen is an employee.
yes. And so I think that they have borrowed from real life and the relationship that Queen Charlotte had with her daughters and how they didn't marry until very later in life because of that. So they've borrowed from real life, but they haven't actually made it make sense in the show because she doesn't have that close relationship. Why would her daughters want to stay close if they don't see their mother, if they don't have a bond with their mother? They would only stay
Mm-hmm.
close if they were there supporting their mother and loving her and, all those things. So I hope that they make that make sense a little bit more in future seasons. We see her relationship with
Yeah,
her children more.
yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I do love though that we get to see those different dynamics of mothers and
Well, that's the thing. Like even if you compare Portia to Araminta Cowper, and we have to say Cowper now because there's going to be two Aramintas.
yes.
Portia is the better mother because she did not and never would abandon her children. Like she had a chance. She had a man who loved her and wanted her to run away with him, and she said no. She chose her daughters.
Mm.
Whereas
Araminta
Lady
said
Cowper
it's all for themselves.
abandoned Cressida
She did.
to maintain
Self-serve.
her stance and standing with Lord Cowper,
Yeah.
and she abandoned her daughter. I mean, putting her daughter out in a red dress in the ton and letting her say she's
Like
whistled down when she wasn't.
you may as
She
well,
basically she
you
she
may have
basically led
well
her daughter to slaughter.
sewn in the
The
Scarlet
Scarlet
A,
Letter.
Scarlet Letter, was it?
Yep.
Yeah,
An A.
for
Adulteress.
adulteress. I was like, there's a certain word for it. Yeah, she may have
Mm-hmm.
as well have sewn that onto her dress. She basically ruined Cressida in the eyes of the Ton. She threw her daughters to the wolves. Yes, her daughter had a hand in it, but her daughter is still a
Cressida
child. She's a
Cressida
child. She's
show
impressionable.
Cressida announced it at a small gathering. It was an engagement party. It was a small gathering, and it could have stayed in that house. The book Cressida announced it at a huge
Yes.
party.
Yeah.
So, and a book Cressida is a way more.
I think that Araminta saw her daughter as a money ticket out of their problems away from Lord
Mhm.
Cowper, and she jumped on it not for her daughter's sake, but for her own.
Yes and no. I mean, she was only going to get 5,000,
I
and it
think
was
she
only
wanted the
enough of a
notor
dowry to
I
get a
think she
country.
wanted the I think she wanted the notoriety of it. The mother of the Lady Whistledown.
Yeah. But I also think country gentlemen, if she chose to go live with their daughter, she'd be far away from Lord Cowper
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
if
I
she
think
went
she
with her
very
daughter.
much was
That's
using,
true.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, I mean, we've got many mamas of the ton, and then one mama of the ton who we haven't really spoken of, season one mama, the worst of the worst, the mama of Nigel Burbrook, the ones
Ugh.
who think that their child walks on water, especially the little boys. And I call them little boys because he
Mm-hmm.
was not a man. The ones who
He was not
justify
a
their
man.
awful behavior and
Mm.
enable their children to be that. Yes, she loved her
And
child, but to his detriment.
what was I can't think of her first, but Edwina and Kate's mother,
Yes.
something Sharma. She's like she took on
Um,
a child that was not hers, and I'm glad we saw that in season 2, and we saw how much she loved Kate, even though Kate wasn't her daughter,
yeah.
because that is just going to make what Araminta does to Sophie in season 4 that much worse. Because,
Yes.
and I think that's how
Mary.
Mary, thank you.
Mary Sharma.
That is how I think Kate and Sophie are going to bond because
Yeah.
on the show,
Yes.
because Kate's mother was also not her biological mother, but she was shown love. She just didn't accept it fully until she realized like it was real motherly love. And Sophie, it was not
Well,
loved in that way
I
at
don't
all.
think she accepted it as motherly love because it unfortunately wasn't motherly
She
love.
felt
It
like she
was
didn't deserve it because of title
no.
and birth.
I think it was actually the fact that it wasn't motherly love because Kate felt like she had to mother her as well. She lost her father, but she had
No,
to
I mean
then take care of
even as her growing up, she never saw that she loved her
yeah,
the same as Edwina. She
Edwina,
felt less
a
than.
responsibility, yeah.
So, yeah, she felt less than. So her taking over and controlling everything and mothering was showing her worth, was like she's trying to prove her worth
Yeah.
by parenting her parent. But even as a child, especially as soon as Edwina came along, she felt like Edwina is the child, I am
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
And that shaped her life.
Yes.
And not that Mary caused that at all. It's just
I think, well, I mean, not that specific feeling, but Mary very much caused
Mary
that.
let her take over.
Yes.
Just like Violet in my opinion, allowed Daphne and Colin to take over when
Yes.
Antony was still at school. And we see those dynamics,
But the difference
Antony
is
begging her like
Violet,
have dinner with the kids.
but the difference is that Violet pulled herself out of it eventually because she knew that her greatest need was not to be a grieving widow, but instead to be a mama. Whereas
Mary allowed
she
Kate
continued
to
in it,
continue.
and it structured Kate's entire life and personality and sense of I can't have anything because I have to give everything.
Correct.
I'm not worth anything because my entire worth is how I can service
Tied up
Edwina,
in how I perform.
because you only love me as Edwina's not countess, like she was essentially
caregiver,
her governess in a way, and that was like
no, she was legit governess.
Yeah, and she felt like that
because that's what a governess does. She taught her the dances, she taught her the etiquette, yes. She taught her how to walk.
And that's the only reason she
Edwina.
gets to stay in that house is because she's a governess. She has a role and she's paying her dues. She felt like she wasn't there because she was a daughter. She felt like she was paying her dues. A lot like Sophie is made.
There's a difference between Sophie and Kate, though, is that Kate created that story in her head without communicating her feelings. And Mary had no idea that story was developing.
Yes.
Right? Araminta told the story to Sophie.
Yeah.
You're not worth anything. I'm caring for you for free, even though she's living off her dowry and stuff.
Yes.
So one spoke the trauma, but in Kate's feelings about herself, her insecurities and her self-worth created the story in her head based on the situation at hand.
Yeah. All right. I think that we have covered our mamas for today as much as I can physically cover before. Sorry for another intermittence. I'm, as I said, on call for work and have a few different things in play at the moment. But for today, gentle listeners, we will leave it there and continue on next week's episode, which will be the Bridgerton Bros. Hopefully. I can't just keep saying things and never following through. I'm a bad mum. If you have anything in particular you would like us to cover or any Bridgerton knowledge you would like to share, please head to our Facebook page, The Ladies Bridgerton. And if you're enjoying our podcast, please remember to click follow on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you are listening. We are now over on YouTube, so please head over there for exclusive content to YouTube as well as a Patreon account if you're wanting exclusive access to our podcast notes each week. It is a $3 New Zealand or US dollars fee, so it is very small. And you get a 3 monthly newsletter that Patty writes up with all major Bridget news and things going on in the ton, in our ton of the
In our ton, yeah.
the tangent ton. I actually really like that.
I
Tangent
like that.
ton.
The tangent ton.
The tangent ton. That's going to be welcome to the tangent ton. Because we have the tangents of an entire ton.
Yeah, our tangents, and they have tangent grinch. So thank you for listening to the musings of two mad and unmedicated women.
Yours truly, Tash the Kiwi and Exhausted Mom.
And Lady Patty, and I don't know what kind of mom I am. I am adoptive mom and foster mom and auntie mom and second mom and all the moms.
Yes. Thank you to all the mums out there. Thank you to all the women who fulfill the roles of mums, whether that be auntie, cousin, niece. Like we as women are
any woman who impacts and shapes a child, who cares for a child, who loves a child and mentors a child, you are a mother.
And to all the to all the parentified girls, all the parentified
the parentified first daughters, yes. the
Happy Mother's Day.
Parents, squeeze your fur babies. I was a pet parent long before I was a parent. Mm-hmm. And for all of the women struggling and striving to become a mom, we see you.
Motherhood looks
in there.
It's no one look. It looks entirely different for every person. So we see and appreciate all of our listeners out there who are on that journey in whatever way that it looks.
Yes, exactly. Happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day.
Tangent Squad.